Hello, friends. Welcome to Akulmak Live. The West is worried. Despite increasing US sanctions against Moscow, Russian oil continues to flow steadily into India. This video breaks down the strategic loophole New Delhi is using to secure discounted crude oil, keeping its energy supply stable while bypassing the Western restriction. Let us go and analyze this because the oil will continue to flow in. Welcome everyone to a deep dive into one of the most contentious and complex geopolitical issue of our time. The surprising resilience of Russian oil exports, specifically its continued flow to India. Despite an unprecedented barrage of Western sanctions, this isn't just about oil, it's about shifting global power, the effectiveness of economic warfare, and the very real implications of the economic policies worldwide. To understand the loophole, we first need to grasp the enormity of the sanctions regime unleashed on Russia after its full-scale invasion of Ukraine in the February 2022. The West goal was clear: cripple Russia's economy, particularly its ability to fund its war machine by targeting its most vital revenue stream, which is the energy exports. Initially, we saw ban on Russian oil imports by the US and UK. Then came the European Union phased embargo. But the biggest move designed to shift globally was the G7 price cap, implemented in December 2022. This cap aimed to restrict the price at which the Russian crude oil could be sold to third-party countries, third world war, third world. If it used Western services like shipping, insurance, or financing, the idea was to allow Russian oil to continue flowing, preventing a global supply shock, but a heavily discounted price, thereby slashing Moscow's profit. It was heralded as a sophisticated tool of economic coercions. Now let's pivot to India. As the world's most populous nation and rapidly growing economic powers, India's energy demands are colossal and ever increasing. India is highly dependent on the oil imports, typically sourcing over 85% of its crude from abroad. For decades, its primary suppliers were Middle East giants like Saudi Arabia and Iraq. When Russia invaded Ukraine, the Western buyers began shunning Russian oil. A unique opportunity arose for India. Suddenly, a vast supply of heavily discounted crude was available for a nation grappling with inflation, a massive energy bill, and a constant need to fuel its industrial growth. This was an offer too good to refuse. India's stance has consistently been driven by its national interest, securing affordable energy for its 1.4 billion people. This brings us to the loophole itself. It is not a single, easily identifiable crack in the sanctions armor, but rather a complex web of strategic maneuvers and market adaptations. Firstly, the most straightforward aspect is India simply ramped up its direct purchase of Russian crude oil at deeply discounted prices. Russian Urals crude, historically trading at a premium, was suddenly selling at a significant discount compared to the international benchmarks like the Brent. Indian refiners, both state-owned and private, seized this opportunity, increasing their intake of Russian oil from a merely 0.2% of the total imports before the war to over 40% by mid 2023. But how did they do this without running a fuel of G7 price cap? This is where the intricacies begin. The G7 price cap specifically targets Russian oil if it uses the Western shipping insurance or the financial services. This means if a tanker is owned by a Greek company, insured by a London firm, or financed by a European bank, it must adhere to the price cap. The loophole here is Russia and its allies' development of a parallel ecosystem. Russia has built a shadow fleet of older, often less transparently owned tankers. These vessels operate outside Western jurisdictions, often registered in non G7 countries, and are insured by non Western providers, frequently based in Russia, China, or the Middle East. This allows Russian oils to be transported without needing to comply to the price cap. Furthermore, Indian buyers are largely sourcing this oil as delivered at port basis, meaning Russia is responsible for shipping and insurance until reaches the product reaches Indian shores. This minimizes India's direct exposure to Western sanctions enforcement. This is perhaps the most concerning aspect for the West. Refining and re export of Russian origin crude is definitely being done by India. Once Russian crude arrives in India, it is blended and processed by Indian refineries. Under international trade rules, when crude oil is refined into a new product like diesel, gasoline, or jet fuel, its country of origin changes to where it was last substantially transformed. In this case, it would be India. This means that refined products which effectively originated from Russian crude are legally considered Indian products. And here is the kicker: many of these refined products are then sold in the international market, including to European countries that have banned direct imports of Russian crude. Major Indian refineries have reportedly ramped up their exports of refined fuels to Europe and the US, filling the void left by the absence of Russian refined products. Essentially, Russian oil via India is finding its way back into the Western market in a transformed state. This has led to accusation that India is effectively laundering Russian oil for Europe. Another critical component of this workaround involves the payment. To circumvent the Western financial sanctions, both Russia and India have been actively exploring implementing alternative payment mechanisms, moving away from the US dollars. They have been using a mix of Indian rupee, Russian ruble, and even third country currency like the UAE dirhams or Chinese yuan. This pivot away from dollar dominated trade not only reduce vulnerability to Western financial sanctions but also align with a broader long term goal for both nations: de dollarization and the strengthening of multipolar global financial system. India in particularly has encouraged its bank to set up a Vostro account with Russian banks to facilitate trade in local currencies. So why is this loophole causing such a significant worry in the Washington and European capitals? The reasons are multifaceted and profound. Firstly, it undermines the very purpose of the sanction. If the Russia continues to sell its oil at a discount and maintain substantial revenue, the economic pressure designed to, you know, spoil its war effort is significantly blunted. Every barrel sold is a dollar or a rupee that can be used to purchase components, pay soldiers, and sustain the conflict. Secondly, it exposes the limitation of the unilateral Western economic power. The G7 price cap relies on the dominance of the Western services. The emergence of robust parallel market, facilitated by countries like India, demonstrates that a significant portion of the global economy is unwilling or unable to fully align with Western sanctions. This challenge the long-held assumption of the Western financial hegemony. Thirdly, it creates a political friction. Western leaders have voiced their concerns to India, urging them to reduce their reliance on Russian oil. They see India as a in indirectly supporting Russia's war. However, India maintains its sovereign right to purchase energy from wherever it sees fit, especially when it benefits its national economy. This divergence creates a wedge within the broader effort to present a united front against Russia. India's position is not naive. It's a carefully calculated balancing act. Now, Delhi enjoys historically strong ties with Moscow, particularly in defense, where Russia remains a key supplier of the military equipment. Simultaneously, India is strengthening its strategic partnership with West, particularly the United States, as part of its Quad alliance effort to counter China in the Indo-Pacific. When pressed by Western officials, Indian External Affairs Minister uh, famously retorted that the Europe buys more Russian energy in an afternoon than India does in a month, highlighting the perceived hypocrisy. India asserts that its purchases are a fraction of what Europe traditionally bought, and it is simply buying what is best for its citizens at a time of the global economic volatility. For India, it's a matter of energy security, economic stability, and asserting its strategic autonomy on the global stage. It refuses to be dictated to be any single power bloc, preferring to maintain diverse partnerships. So, what can the West do now? Options are limited and fraught with potential risk. One approach is to tighten the enforcement of the existing sanctions. This could mean more aggressive tracking of the shadow fleet, increased scrutiny of non Western insurers, and targeting specific entities or individuals involved in circumventing the price cap. However, this is incredibly complex and resource intensive. Another more drastic measure would be to impose secondary sanctions on entities or countries like India that continues to trade with sanctioned Russian entities. This is a powerful tool but comes with significant diplomatic and economic cost. Sanctioning India, a crucial partner in the Indo Pacific and democratic ally, would be a major geopolitical misstep, potentially pushing New Delhi closer to Beijing and Moscow. The West is effectively caught between a rock and a hard place. Allow the loophole to persist, weakening the sanctions regime, or escalate, risking a broader global economic disruption and alienating key allies. The current strategy seems to be one of the persistent diplomatic pressure and selective targeted enforcement rather than broad secondary sanctions. The big question is, how sustainable is this loophole? On one hand, Russia needs buyer and India needs affordable energy. As long as these fundamental needs exist, the incentives to maintain this trade will remain strong. The infrastructure, the ships, the payment system is now largely in place. On the other hand, factors could shift. The war in Ukraine could end, altering the geopolitical landscape. Global oil demand could fluctuate. India own energy mix could evolve with a greater push towards renewables. Though this is a long-term prospect, Western pressure, while not leading to the outright sanctions on India, could increase the cost or complexities of this trade. Ultimately, this situation highlights the incredible adaptability of the global markets and the limit of economic sanctions when faced with strong national interest and determined actors. The Indian Russia oil loophole is more than just a logistical workaround, it's a symptom of the changing world order. It demonstrates the growing agency of uh, non Western power, the challenges of imposing a unified global economic front, and the persistent drive of nations to secure their own prosperity. For the West, it is difficult lesson in the complexities of the economic warfare. For India, it is the pragmatic strategy that serves its national interest, and for Russia, it is the lifeline that helps, mitigate the crushing impact of the unprecedented sanctions. As the geopolitical chessboard continues to evolve, this oil loophole will remain a critical point of contention, shaping international relations and the future of global energy market for years to come. So, friends, thank you for joining me for this in-depth look. What are your thoughts on these complex issues? Let me know in the comments below, and don't forget to like this video, share it with your friends, and subscribe to our channel for more insights into the world of geopolitics. See you until next time. Bye for now.